Are you drowning in landlord paperwork? Over the last 10 years, I've organized my entire rental business with this Google Drive setup. Stay to the end because I'm going to share a free tool I built that will streamline your whole Google Drive workflow. My name's Hussein, and I love solving business problems with tech solutions. Let's get into it. So why use Google Drive? 2 reasons. Access from anywhere and shared access with anybody on your team. So a couple quick examples. One thing I'm always trying to remember is like how much I paid for something or what a lender was or a title company I used on a property. So I have a property closing folder and I can pull up the closing statement and find that information right away. Another thing, so let's say you're shopping at like Home Depot or the hardware store and you can't remember what color paint something was or what, color an appliance was or something like that. You have all the pictures stored in your Google Drive so you can pull it up automatically and just thumb through them and you can get those answers right away. When it comes to shared access, I have a folder in my Google Drive called Accounting, and I use that to share my receipts, my invoices, and all the stuff that my bookkeeper needs to be able to do my bookkeeping remotely. One thing I did want to say before we get into the nuts and bolts of things is make sure you have a dedicated Gmail account for your business. So your Google Drive is attached to your Gmail account and you want to make sure you're not using one that you use for your personal stuff. So if you don't have a dedicated Gmail account for your business, go ahead and create that now. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be, your business name at gmail.com or whatever you want. You just want it to be separate from your personal account. So if you just created your fresh Gmail account or you're using an account that you already have, the fastest way to access your Google Drive is to go top right here and hit Drive. Alternatively, you can go to drive.google.com. So this is what it looks like when you get in here. I'm going to go ahead and hit my drive here so you can see my structure. So I recommend these 6 folders: Unsorted, Properties, Accounting, Templates, Business, and Archive. You can see that I numbered them 01, 02, 03. This just makes it so they show up in the order that I want them. So let's start with Unsorted. So in the Unsorted folder, I put things in here for 2 reasons. A, I don't know where they need to go and I just want to put them in my Google Drive. Or B, they're being sent to my Google Drive by an automated tool. And again, I'm going to share that at the end of the video with the tool I use that I made to automatically put everything that comes into your Gmail into your Google Drive. But this is the Unsorted folder that I use for that. And then from here, I'll sort them to where they need to go. The next folder is the Property folder. This is where I spend most of my time. So in the Property folder is everything that is property specific. So in this folder, you'll literally list out the names of all your properties. So I have 3 examples here. And then I also put an archive folder of a property that I've sold or no longer manage anymore, just so I have it here, but it's not cluttering this up. So if we click into 123 Main Street, these are the folders that I recommend. So if it's a multi-unit, put all your units here. So unit A, unit B, put them all there. And then I have a closing folder. So anything related to either the purchasing of the property, a refi of the property, I dump it all in here. So for example, I have a purchase in 2016 and a refi in 2020. So anything related to that property, the closing docs or anything inspections, anything I might want to reference later, I will go ahead and put in that folder. So if we back out here, insurance, all my insurance renewals I put in here. That is something that for some reason I need to send to people very often. So I have my insurance renewal and I always put the name of the property, insurance, and then the date that it expires. Move-in packets, this is another templated thing that I use. So every tenant who moves in will get a few things. They'll get a new tenant orientation that talks about like property rules and when the trash and recycling gets taken out and what to do for maintenance and stuff like that. I give them something about renter's insurance, and this is all a little property specific because trash gets taken out on different days, alternate side parking for winter and stuff like that. So in the unit folder, let's click into unit A. So in unit A, I list all the tenants that I have in here. So each tenant gets a folder. And then I also have one folder of all the listing photos. So this is what I reference if I want to relist the property. So you can see all my photos there. Drilling down even further, let's click into a tenant. So in here, when they move in, I'll have like their signed lease and all the stuff, and anytime they renew a lease, I'll throw that all in here. When they move in, I'll have some photos. When they move out, I'll have some photos. And anything specific to the tenant, if I send them notices, I throw all that stuff in this folder. The next folder is the accounting folder. So this folder has that little person icon because I share this folder with my bookkeeper. So to give somebody access to a folder, you literally just hit the plus icon over here with the person, you hit share, and you can type in who you want to share it with, and you can give them viewing access or editing access. If it's somebody who's going to be doing something like a bookkeeper, you would probably need to give them editing access because they will need to add, remove things, rename things in that folder. All right, so let's click into the accounting folder here. So in the accounting folder, I have a folder for each business, because more than likely from a tax standpoint, you'll probably need to have them separated out. I also have a W-9s folder of all the W-9s I collect for my contractors. Quick tip, collect those before you pay them because you don't know if you're gonna have to issue them a tax document at the end of the year, so just collect them right away. So let's click into Rock Rentals LLC here. So you can see that there is a folder for each year. If you click into 2024, you'll see a folder for each month. Let's click into January. So you're gonna see each property here. So anything that's related, an expense, an accounting, an invoice, anything that's property specific will go into that folder. Anything that's a deposit, I like to put in its own folder as deposits. You don't have to have this, but I like to have quick access to this for a couple different reasons. And then uncategorized. So if you have any expenses that are not property specific or you don't know how to tag them, I throw them in here. So every month as things are coming in, if it's January, I'm just throwing them in the appropriate folder. Well, I'm actually not throwing them in there. My bookkeeper is throwing them in there. And that's another thing I'd highly recommend getting a bookkeeper. You can find inexpensive ones that are overseas that work and know QuickBooks or any accounting software better than you probably do, and they're great to work with and they're fairly inexpensive. So the next folder are templates. Templates are huge for me. They let me save time, so I'm not starting from scratch every time I want to write a new document up. So in my templates folder, I have notices. So these are notices that I sent to tenants, late rent, 14-day notices, things like that. I have a leases folder, so these are the templated things that I use on my leases, my lease signing checklist, move in, move out condition reports, addendums, things like that, so I can reference those and just change them quickly. And then under advertising, so the ads that I write up, I have copies of ads, and also I do self-showings, and that's another thing that you got to watch out for my video on that, but I do self-showings, so these are a couple things that I put, like don't use the toilet, return the keys, things like that, but these are things that I'm using frequently, and they're in my advertising templates folder. So moving right along, the next folder is the business folder. I use this folder to store anything that's sort of high level, overarching, related to setup or use of business. So if we go into this folder here, you'll see you have to, of course, have each business listed out, similar like you would for your accounting folder. So let's go into ABC Invest. You'll see I have my EIN number, logos, LLC docs. The EIN number is an important one. I feel like people are always asking me for that, so it's good to have that handy. So anything that's business specific, you throw in this business folder. Last but not least is the archive folder. So that folder is just anything that's no longer relevant. The good rule of thumb is not to delete anything because you can get audited from the IRS or just other reasons. So instead of deleting, I archive, and if I really have to and I'm pressed for space, if I need to delete something, sure, I'll delete it from the archive folder, but anything that's no longer relevant, I just throw it in there to keep everything clean and usable. If there's any folder that I missed that you have or you would put in your business, throw it in the comment section. I'd love to know. So when it comes to getting things in your Google Drive, you actually have a couple different choices, and I actually use a combination of all three of the ones that I'm going to share. So the first one is putting things in there yourself. So if you're in a email and you want to add something to your Google Drive, if you click in there and then hit that button that says add to drive, it'll walk you through adding that directly into your Google Drive. You can also get the Google Drive mobile app, and that's another easy way to upload things and get them to your drive. Option number 2 is to have somebody else do it. So for example, my accounting folder is actually managed by my bookkeeper. So I send everything to one dedicated email, and then my bookkeeper is a person who actually sorts through that and puts the relevant things in my accounting folder. So option number 3, and this is what I talked about at the beginning of the video, you can set up something so things automatically go from your Gmail over to your Google Drive. And this is super cool, especially if you have a Gmail that's just set up to receive documents that will eventually go to your Google Drive. So if you look at my Gmail, I have some stuff that says saved to drive. These are things that were automatically saved with the program that I wrote, and it has a little save to drive thing here. So on the back end, don't get intimidated, but this is what it looks like on the back end. And you don't have to know anything about coding. You literally will copy and paste this into a spot, and then once you copy and paste it, it will ask you for some permissions, and then it'll automatically start working. So the way the program works is if you receive an email that has an attachment, the program will automatically save that attachment into your unsorted folder. If you receive something that does not have an attachment, so for example, I receive a lot of utility bills where there's no attachment, but within the body of the email, they're telling me the information that I want to capture. So the program will take that email, turn it into a PDF, and then save that in the unsorted folder. So for example, this one here that says bill for energy, there's no attachment. It just has something in the body of the email. That was one that was converted into a PDF and saved here. Obviously, you'd actually have something in there. And then, for example, these ones had attachments. So this says 16 Pro Elite, invoice, blah, blah. Those ones, the actual attachments were just saved in there. If you're interested in that automatic tool that I made, it's free. I'll share a link in the description of how you can copy it and set it up. You don't need to know anything about coding. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes to pop in, copy and paste some stuff and hit some permissions, and then it'll just go in the background. So I combined the whole Google Drive thing with my receipt management and accounting process. I made a whole video about how I do my receipts and how I get everything over to my dedicated email, which then will eventually go into my Google Drive. So I'd recommend checking out that video next. I'll see you there.